Welcome to this demonstration. It's a demonstration to show the various DevOps tools and technologies to build and deploy an application from end to end. So a quick look at the task. The task is to build and deploy a Java application. We would use Git as our version control system and GitHub as our source code manager. We will also use Terraform as our infrastructure as code tool on AWS. First, to provision Jenkins server. Jenkins is our CI/CD tool of choice. Jenkins server would also have Maven installed in it for the building of the Java application. We would also use Terraform to provision an Ansible server, which would also contain Docker for our image containerization. We would also use Terraform on AWS to provision an EKS Bootstrap server, which we would use to set up and configure our Kubernetes cluster on AWS Elastic Kubernetes Service. A quick rundown of the steps. After we have installed Terraform and configured Terraform, we will use that to provision the infrastructure as needed. Jenkins would be our CI/CD tool of choice, which would, in the continuous integration job, pull the source code from a private GitHub repository. When the source code is pulled into Jenkins, it runs the Maven build to produce an artifact. The artifact will be published over SSH into our Ansible server. This process will trigger Ansible server to run the Ansible playbook, which would do a Docker build, Docker tag, and Docker push of our application image to our Docker Hub repository. So this would conclude the continuous integration job, such that whenever a change is made in the code in our GitHub repository, the build is triggered in Jenkins, and the process runs again to build an image and push to a Docker Hub repository. Again, we would have a continuous deployment job configured right in Jenkins, which would trigger Ansible playbook in the Ansible server to perform the deployment of our image from our Docker Hub repository. So it will pull the image from our repository, and with the Kubernetes manifest files and the Ansible playbooks already in our Ansible server, it will perform the continuous deployment job and deploy application in our Kubernetes cluster. So the entire CI/CD process is quite simple from this point. So whenever a change is made in the code, a new version is released, Jenkins CI job is triggered, and once the process is completed, it triggers the CD job to deploy the application to our Kubernetes cluster. So that's the summary of the project. I hope you enjoyed the demonstration. Please feel free to take your time with it, one step after another. Document your questions and ask them at the comment section, and we'll do our best to reach back to you with answers. This is brought to you by Mercy Boy System Solutions. Please check us out on the website on your screen.
Okay, now we want to start our Terraform server, and we get right into it. Launch instances. Let's call that Terraform server. And we want to use Amazon Linux 2, which is free tier eligible. Just keeping it simple for the purpose of this demonstration. We're using T2 Micro. So I have a key pair already. So I'm going to use that. If you don't have a key pair, you can create a new key pair right from here. So to keep it simple, we use the default VPC right here. Create a security group. I can use an existing security group here. So let me use Launch Wizard 1 to keep it as simple as possible. So we launch instance. Instance is launched. So we get into the instance, just give it a moment. So it starts running. Once it starts running, we will connect to it. Okay, it's still initializing. However, we can still connect to it. So let's just get the public IP v4 address and get to MobileX term and try to connect to our instance. So we paste our IP address here. Get our private key to connect to our server. So we have our key right here. So we connect to it. So we successfully connected to our server. Let's rename that Terraform. And get that out here. Okay. So let's just apply an update from here. Stream update. Yep. Install that. Okay, done. Okay, so let's begin the process of installing Terraform right here. Okay, all done. Copy the repository. Repository has been added. From there, we install Terraform. if Terraform is complete. So simply run Terraform and we see the list of commands that shows it's successful. So at this point, I want to change the host name for this. I could simply do set hostname CDR, set hostname. I want to call this Terraform server. Yeah, so I can restart this, reboot the server. Yes, after I rebooted it, give it a little while and restart the session. Okay, we're back in and we are in here now as Terraform server. So that's all done now. Now we want to provision other servers for our project. So we'll begin with our Jenkins server for our CI/CD pipeline. And to do that first, I would want to create an S3 bucket. The S3 bucket will enable me to have a remote backend. So I'm getting to S3 to create a remote backend where I will save my Terraform state files. So create bucket, and I would like to call that bucket, give it the name for my project. Let's call the name project register. Project register. We're having it in the US East 2, and ACL is disabled, and block all public access. So leave every other thing as usual. Enable versioning, and leave every other thing as default. So create bucket. So bucket has been successfully created. So I'll take note of this bucket name so that we could use it in our project folder to have all our state files in there. Trying to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to create a directory from this point. I want to call that Jenkins because I want to have all my Terraform scripts for Jenkins in here. So done. So in here, that's no file now. So let's begin to create the files. Now, let's create a file. Move VI into the first file I'm going to create here is the provider.tf. So let me create provider.tf file. So required version 4 and above. So I'll bring in my backend configuration into my script. I'm going to edit that with us right now, and we'll see how that goes. So remember, I already have a name for my bucket. My bucket is actually project register, and I want to use this as the key for this particular Terraform tf.state. I may want to add that in here. Let me call that Jenkins. because this is for my Jenkins server, and the bucket is at US East 2. So I'm going to bring in a DynamoDB table. So the provider.tf file is ready. However, we will check everything before we run them. So done with my provider script. So I want to get in my main.tf file. So via into main.tf file. So I want to call this, let's call it Jenkins server. And I'm going to be using a data source. The data source I'll be using will be Amazon Linux. And we won't be needing this user data, so we'll take it out. So I'll call this server Jenkins server. That's what I'll call it in AWS. So this is my main.tf at the moment. We'll sort out all of these in just a moment. So I'll do vi data.tf. Okay, so remember the name we gave our data source is simply Amazon Linux. So we could take out this so we wouldn't have an error. We have that for Amazon, and we have this for the so maybe I should just add to here and then go back and edit the other. So Amazon Linux 2 taken. So I'll go back to my main.tf and make sure my files are green. So Amazon Linux 2, that's it there. Okay. We are into variables.tf. The variable region is US2 in case we want to pass that as variable. So we won't be needing this at the moment. So because we have a data source for the AMI. So we take this out. And so I'm going to be using whichever one. No. So getting down, but I'll just be using T2 micro. Of course. My key is already created. Ohio key is already created in the same region. So I'm just passing it here as a variable. Then we'll create a security group in a moment. However, these are the ports we intend to have open in this for this server as a rule. So the ingress rules will allow port 22, port 80, port 43, 8080. These are Jenkins servers, so and so on and so forth. Egress rule. So keep it simple at this point. We are into security.here. Into security.here. So remember this name, web traffic, AWS security group, web traffic. So because we're going to reference that in a moment. So let's call that my SG1 because I'll be creating a couple of them. Each of our servers from this point will have a different security group for security purposes, keeping it simple and still maintaining the best practices. So AWS security group, and we call that web traffic. So let's call that my security group 1 at this point. So done. Now I want to edit something in my main.tf file and make sure I have that. So AWS security group. So I need to edit this. AWS security group. Remember, we have that as web traffic. Web traffic.id. I'm going to remove every other thing here. So we only have one security group with the defined ingress and egress rule. So web traffic, AWS security group.web traffic for our Jenkins server. Okay, so let's confirm that security group or web has a dash here. So we go back and edit that. So main.tf, web has a dash. So these are simple things that actually matter in the task. So any little mistake, of course, it's going to tell you if there's any mistake along the line, and you'll be able to get to correct them. So my variable is, my instance type is var.myInstanceType. We'll see that and confirm that in our variables.tf var.myInstanceType var my underscore instance underscore type. So T2 micro, that's what we intend to use. So let's confirm that var.my underscore instance underscore type. So that's it. So our scripts are ready. Okay, our scripts are ready. So let's see the files we have here. We have data.tf, we have provider, we have security, we have. So the next thing we're going to do is to modify the IAM role for this Terraform server so it has permission to communicate with our AWS account. Another way to do that is to run AWS configure, that is installing AWS CLI here and doing AWS configure and providing access key and secret access key, but that is not so secure. So the best thing we're going to do is actually to configure IAM role for this server to give it access to be able to communicate with our AWS account. So this is the server here, modifying the IAM role. So let's modify IAM role for this. Let's create a new IAM role. There's none here at the moment. So let's create a new IAM role for that. And to make it as simple as possible, I'm just going to choose create role. So I'm using it for AWS, use service, EC2, next. I'm just going to give it administrator access. So I'm just going to give it that. So I'll give the role name because I'm creating it for Terraform. So let me call it Terraform. Terraform role has administrative access and create role. Role has been created. So to get back into, it's not going to be here. So you refresh this and then you have Terraform role here created. So update IAM role for the server. So the server has IAM role administrator access to be able to access our AWS account to be able to run tasks in our account. So we are already in our script in our folder. So let's begin the process. Terraforming it, initializing the backend. Backend has been initialized successfully as the S3 bucket we created, and the folder has been initialized, correctly. And we have a log file already. So Terraforming it done. So let's Terraform FMT, all good. Let's run Terraform validate. If there's any syntax error, we're going to be able to see it at this moment, or any configuration error, we're going to see it, but everything looks great. So I'll go ahead to run Terraform plan. And let's see the plan it generates for us to start up our Jenkins server. So it's just going to add two things. Just going to add a security group, create a security group, and create an instance for us. So we go ahead and run Terraform apply. You know, if you run Terraform apply, it gives you the plan again and ask for permission. But if you don't want to do that, you know, you just go ahead and you know, put a flag auto approve. But let's just run apply. Otherwise, you could simply run Terraform apply with the auto approve flag. And then it asks for your permission at this point, and you say yes. It continues to run that. The script is running, and in just a moment, we'll be having our Jenkins server ready, and we will install Jenkins in it and proceed with the project. Okay, so complete already. So we get into our AWS account, and let's confirm that the server is up here, Jenkins server right here, and it's still initializing. So we simply go copy the public IPv4 address and get to mobile xterm so we can log into our server, and the host is EC2 user, and we put a private key. The same key is still the one we're using. So we're still using the same key as before. So there we go. So let's name that Jenkins. So Jenkins server is up and running. So now we will go ahead and install Jenkins in it. So okay, let's run that as root user. So we're starting Jenkins as root. So we start the process. Okay, then we continue that. Install the Jenkins report. Done. Jenkins key and imported. So we go on. Yep. Okay, so next, however, you are free to all of these commands that I've just run. You're free to put them in a script, a shell script, and run them as a script, it's still going to give you the same outcome. But just wanted you to see the commands one after another, and then see what the process looks like. Then when this is done, we would install OpenJDK, Java OpenJDK 11, so we will be able to run Jenkins as easy as possible. So yes, keep installing, complete. Okay, done. So we'll install OpenJDK 11. Required for Jenkins to work. Okay, that's completed. Install that. Okay, that done. We'll go ahead to install Jenkins now. So using yum install Jenkins would install Jenkins for us. Okay, done. So we want to enable Jenkins service to start at both. So we run that systemctl enable Jenkins. Okay, that's done. So we want to start Jenkins now. Systemctl start Jenkins. Okay, Jenkins started. Can check for status if you want. Jenkins is active and running. So at this time, I want to change the host name here. Let's call that Jenkins server. So I can reboot the server. Okay, just give it a moment. After a moment, you simply hit R and restart the session. Okay, so we're ready for that for the next few steps. So get in back as root user. So you can confirm the Java version. All right, you can also confirm the Java corridor version. Go. So everything, is in order, and we're set to continue. Let's see status Jenkins. Status Jenkins. Okay. It's not started, so it's activating. So we need to start it. So let's go and start Jenkins now. Jenkins has started. Now it's active and running. You must always ensure that it's active and running before you proceed working on your project. Okay, right now we want to install and configure Maven since we are going to be running with a Java application, and Maven is one of the build tools for Java. So we want to install and configure Maven in this same Jenkins server. So a quick hint, you are logged in as the root user, and you can get the information for Maven right here. So currently we have Maven 3.9.5. So I'll simply copy this link, simply copy link address, copied it. And next, I'm going to begin the process to install that. So first I'm going to do here is I'm going to cd into OPT, cd into OPT. That's where I intend to do that. So once I'm in OPT, I'll do wget, paste the link I just copied a moment ago. This installs Maven 3.9.5 for us. And there we go. It downloads the folder for us. So if you do lets you see the folder right here. It doesn't install it yet anyway. So that's the folder, but it's a tar folder. So we have to untie it. We have to untie that. And that's Apache Maven. So we are untying that done. So if we do that, we see the two of them right here. So I want to remove this. I want to remove that. Dash pane. So it's gone. So I have what I need. So to make it much easier for me, I'm simply going to rename that to Maven, keep it as simple as possible. All right, rename it as Maven, and that's done. So if I do that, I'll simply see Maven right here. Okay, so having done that, so I'll cd. If I cd into Maven, now it's a directory. Okay, if I cd into Maven, I'm in Maven right now. ls You see the directories inside. So I want to get into bin. So I cd into bin right there in bin now. So these are the files inside bin. So if I run to check the MVN version, I'll get a response, but I must always run MVN when I'm in this folder. So that is not going to be so helpful. So I want to create, make some changes in my bash profile and be able to run MVN command from anywhere and not necessarily when I am inside bin folder. So if I exit bin folder now, if I exit bin folder and run that, I'm going to get an error. No such file or directory. So to correct this, the few steps that we have to take will happen. So I cd back into the home directory of the root user, and I want to show the file. We need to edit something in this bash underscore profile. So what do we do? So we vi into .bash underscore profile. So when we vi into that, so we're right in here. All right. So, but before we make the small adjustment we have to make here, we need to find some paths so that we can use that correctly in here. So we come out of the file again. We'll still get there in a moment. So let's simply find the file, find the directory actually by name. I'm looking for Java 11, anything with Java 11, and here it is. So I think I got what I'm looking for. All right, there it is. So this is what I'm looking for right here. Anything with Java 11, and I got it. So I'm actually going to be needing this. I'm actually going to be needing this user lib jvm / Java 11 open JDK 11 point, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. So I'm going to be needing this. So I'll copy that out. I'll copy that out. That's done. So I get back into my vi bash underscore profile. At this point, I'm going to edit a couple of things here. First, I need to add the M2 home, M2 underscore home to be the Maven home to be OPT. Of course, that's where we have the Maven directory, OPT/Maven. That's where we have that. We also add the same thing, almost the same, M2. I have that in OPT/Maven/bin. That's where I have it, OPT/Maven/bin. And then finally, I'll have my Java home. That was what I copied a moment ago. Java home to be that. It's quite long, but it's a file. You got it here. So now what I'm going to add the next I'm going to do is to edit this, the path. So this path, $path slash or colon $home slash bin. And I'm going to complete that with the rest of the commands or with the rest of the paths. All right. I have that as $Java home. That's $Java home right here. So I'm going to have $Java underscore home, have colon again, complete that, $M2 underscore home. Oh, hang on a moment. M2 underscore home. And then $M2. Yeah. So this completes the path for Maven, so that when I run nvn commands, I wouldn't have to be in opt/maven/bin before that happens. So now, having done that, I'm going to refresh this file. And to refresh that, I'll do source bash underscore profile. But before I run that, I need to show you something. So if I run $path echo $path now, sorry, if I run echo $path, I'm going to be getting just this. All right, and this is not complete yet. So it's not complete, even though I've made the changes I need to make in there. So, but right now, let me refresh that source source.bash underscore profile. Now done. So if I run echo $path now, I will get the full path to my Maven, which ultimately is in opt/Maven. Of course, it has to lead to all of these before I'll be able to run that. So after having done that, so if I run MVN now, I'm going to get some response because I've made the necessary changes. Yes, so this is just a response from running the MVN. So I don't have to be in OPT Maven to be able to run that. I am at the root. I'm actually right now PWD. I'm at the root, so I can run MVN-V now, and I get a response from anywhere. So this configuration is quite important that we do that. Okay. Now we get to Jenkins UI and complete installations for Jenkins. So we get our public IP address for Jenkins, and we slide into Jenkins port 8080. We get into Jenkins in a moment, sign in. Okay, so we need to get the initial password from here. So let's go get that. So got that initial password, we get it. Yep, so paste that in here, continue, and save it. Install suggested plugins. We'll be doing two things, completing this Jenkins setup now, and would also configure Maven integration within this Jenkins UI to enable us run Java tasks as required. So just a little while. Okay, so done. So create the first admin user. So let me create that, Mercy Boy. And let me use password. Let me put in the password. Put the Mercy Boy email address. So I can use this. All right, so that done. Save and continue. Jenkins URL is at that, yes. Start using Jenkins. Okay, so we want to finish the Maven integration. So we go to Manage Jenkins. We go to Manage Jenkins, plugins, available plugins. We're looking for Maven integration. I'm looking for Maven integration. Okay, there we got it. I don't really need all of these other ones. Okay, so Maven integration plugin, install that. Okay, completed. I'm still going to restart on Jenkins in a moment. So completing that, go to Manage Jenkins and go to Tools. So JDK installations, add JDK. So we have add JDK. So name, we just call it Java 11 and we provide the Java home. No, Java home, just like we have it in our server. So to refer to that, so we can just do $Java home echo that, yeah, echo $Java home, and we copy that. So this is the path we will copy into that and bring it into Java home, and we paste it here. So that's done. All right, and then we get into, we're still in the same tools. You go to Maven installations, add Maven. We can apply the first one, if you may. And then we add name is Maven. And because we are not installing automatically, because we've already installed it in the Jenkins server, so we just need to provide the path for the Maven home so that Jenkins can access the Maven home to be able to run Maven tasks. So the Maven home for us is actually OPT Maven. If you want to confirm that, so to confirm that, back to our server, you can run echo echo $m2 underscore home. That's our Maven home. You see that here, opt/Maven. So that's our Maven home for us. So we got it in here, opt/Maven. All right, and then we can actually apply that. We apply that. Okay, and save. Then go to plugins again. Install plugins now, because we need to make a little change in that. We're looking for GitHub. Oh, sorry, GitHub plugin. So what we need to do now is we disable this and enable that. So on this now, we have actually, finished the installations we need to do in our Jenkins UI. So we can restart now. All right. So it's restarting. So while it is restarting, okay, I will go to the Jenkins server and install Git in here. So I'm installing Git here so we can run Git locally as much as possible. So to test running, Git is being installed here, and Jenkins is restarted. Okay, so Jenkins has restarted. So we'll log in again. We'll sign into Jenkins again, and here we are in our Jenkins UI, and Git is still installing here. Okay, go. Now, having configured our Jenkins and Maven to work together, so let's just create a test job to see how it works. So call that test one. Let me call that test one. I call it a Maven project, since it's going to be a Maven project. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, I won't do anything here at the moment. We'll get to that. We're just trying to test this out. So I want to fill in the Git, the source code, the Git repository for the source code, and this is my repository for that. So I'll simply go to that, and this is the source code for that. So I'll simply, if you look at this source code, this repository is a private repository, and we will just show us how to navigate through private repositories in a moment. Of course, in the production environment, you wouldn't be working from public repository. It's going to be private. Your applications are private. You don't want your application in the public space. So that's what we are. That's what we have here. That's what we are mimicking at this point. So we have our repository here as private, and to move further, so I'll pick that. And I'll copy this. I'll go to my repository, put it in there, paste the repository. Now that I've pasted it, it's just going to see what happens. It tells me fail to connect. Of course, it will fail to connect because it's a private repository. We are going to sort that out. in a moment. So to fix that, we will create a credential that will allow us to get into this repository and clone this repository, for Jenkins to be able to clone this repository and work with it. So right now there's none. So we'll go to add, go to Jenkins. Now the type we want to add is actually username with password. All right, username with password. So we select that. The scope will remain Jenkins. So the Git username, my Git username is Dimma Mercy Boy. So I'll simply put that in here because that's my username in the Git. So now for password, I'm not going to be putting my password here. And to make it easier and safer, the best thing to do will be to create a personal access token. You come to the icon here, go to settings, and go to developer settings down here, and personal access tokens, classic. Right now, I don't have any. This is not safe on this screen, but I'm going to delete the token immediately after I'm done. So, but just to show you what to do, generate new token. We click that. Let's call the token because we are using it for register app. So we can call it register. I have one already here, so I'll choose that. 30 days if you want. You can choose whatever you want from here, depending on what you want. So I'm just going to give it this token a repo scope just to be able to clone repositories. And that's all I needed to do. So I'll generate the token. It's right here. At this point, you need to copy this token because you won't be able to see it after now. So I'll just copy the token, get back to my Jenkins, at this password, put it, so it traces it as secret too. All right. If you want the username to be treated as secret too, you just simply check this and it will be done. So anyways, so the ID, what do I want to call that? Let me call that Git credentials. Let me just call that Git cred. Put the same thing here. So now I have a credential for that, add it. Now it's added. Once you come here, you're going to see that here. So grid credentials. Once you add it, this disappears. So meaning that Jenkins can now communicate with this repository, this private repository here. So don't forget, we have it in the main, not master. So if your repository, if what you call your repository in your own side is master, you be sure to put master there, but I have main here. So I have to put main here. So I'm working from the main branch. I don't need to do any other thing here at the moment since this is just a test and everything is okay. Okay, at this point, the root pom is pom.xml. The goal and option, I'll simply say clean install, clean install. That's all I need to do at the moment. Apply it and save. So now we've saved it. Let's build. Let's build. So the build is ongoing. The build is ongoing, and in a moment it will be completed. Then we'll continue with the project. Okay, the build is completed, finished, success. So the build is done. So our configurations are good, and we are good to run the project from beginning to the end. Okay, now we go to install, set up Ansible server and install Ansible in it. And we are going to be doing that from our Terraform server. Now, right now, we already have a template script for Terraform script we used to get Jenkins to work. So now we're going to use the same thing, use the same script. We want to copy the script to Jenkins, and this time around, call it Ansible. So we can just edit that. So we have Ansible, we have Jenkins, so we cd into Ansible, and ls, we have all of this script. So let's data.tf, we don't have any problem. So let's see, we're still going to use the same Amazon Linux too. So this doesn't have any problem at all. Again, we go to main.tf, maybe edit one or two things there. We would change this to Ansible server. Oops. Ansible server, the same variables, the same key, the same. We might need to modify the security group, and the name will now be Ansible server from here. So we call that Ansible server right there. So we save and quit. So we go back into our provider.tf is okay. We do not need to, okay, we will just edit the bucket key. We're still using the same bucket for the same project. So we'll simply change this to Ansible Terraform TF state. So yeah, so that's just what we're going to change, because the Terraform state file is for Ansible server. So we'll save and quit. So we go into security.tf here, security.tf. So we have the same, let's leave it at the same thing, web traffic, it doesn't really matter. So we can call this security group 2 and call this tag below here, make it security group 2. We might have one or two changes in the variables now, so we can reflect some port ranges. So ingress rules. So we have ingress rules. I don't think we need to do much here anyways. So okay, let's just do 8090. Okay. And it doesn't really matter anyway, but just to make a few changes in there. I have port 9000 right there. I don't need that. So just to show us that it's possible to edit your settings and get what you want. We have variables, so everything is set right in here in the Ansible directory. And remember, we already configured IAM role for this, so it will be easy for us to actually start this server in AWS. Okay, back end for this. Okay, so let's make a little change. Terraform init. Okay. I see what happened here. So just a moment. So some things are going to be changing here. So I don't need this. So I'm simply going to delete this, because this actually shows that this directory has been initialized before. So what I'll simply do is I'll simply delete these files since I have a new directory. It's importing what we have with Jenkins at this time. So That's the problem. So simply remove that. We'll simply remove that. We remove .terraform, and we also remove .terraform.log. So it's out. So if I do that, I don't have any of those anymore. So if I went ahead to reconfigure this, I will be reconfiguring the Terraform state file for the Jenkins server, but that's not what we want to do at this time. So we just want to start a new server. And remember, I copied everything in Jenkins into Ansible recursively, with this flag. So I really have to remove this from here if I must work with this directory as a fresh directory, So now I can run my Terraform init. Now, so everything will go as smoothly and as easy as possible. Terraform init done. So I can run Terraform FMT. Okay. Terraform validate. Okay, in a moment. Valid. So Terraform plan. Now, Terraform plan. Tell us what we need to install too. All right. So we run Terraform apply. You just like I said earlier, you can do auto approve flag. Okay, or you simply run the first and then it gives you that. So it doesn't have to ask you for confirmation now because you pass the auto approve flag. So it just goes straight into installing that. And in just a moment, that will be done. Then we'll be able to access our server to be able to run our Ansible tasks. Okay, so the server has started successfully. So let's confirm that in our AWS console. All right, so instances, refresh this now, and we have our Ansible server right here. So this is our Ansible server. It's still initializing. Okay, let's pick the public IPv4 address. Get into MobileX term and access our server. A good key. Okay, so gain access into our server. Our Ansible server is up and running. So let's rename that Ansible. Okay, you touch that, maximize it. Okay, so this is our Ansible server now. Change the host name. Change the host name. Call that Ansible server. Okay, let's go. So at this point, you can reboot. But before we reboot, let's finish up our configurations. Create a new user. First of all, switch to root user. Done. Create a new user. Let's call the user ANS admin. Call the user ANS admin and assign a password. Sorry, passwd ANS admin. Let's give password to him and let's give him password in a password. Good. So password is saved. Now let's add him to the pseudo group. And we want to add him just right here. Same thing without a password. So it's going to be ANS admin. That's the username. And we put this no password in there. Go save and quit. All right, so we want to enable passwordless authentication now. So we cd into /etcssh. Now we're concerned to get the file sshd config. So we veer into sshd config and we change this to password authentication to yes. Okay, so done. All right, having done that, we just reload the service, SSHD service. So service SSHD reload, we'll reload the service, and that is done already. So at this time, I can go ahead to switch to the user ANS admin and run other commands as necessary. So switch user to ANS admin so he can run tasks. Okay. Switch user to ANS admin. So user ANS admin is up now. So let's generate a key for ANS admin to be able to access all the servers that it would manage as our configuration management tool. So we want to create a key. That's the command ssh keygen. This key is to be saved at home of ANS admin SSH. Yeah, as that. So we say yes, that's what we want. No paraphrase, no paraphrase. So that's done. That's done. So if we look at if we ls.ssh, now we'll see the keys, private and public. So we'll be using this key in a moment. So now we want to install Ansible. And to do that, let's get back as root user. Let's get back as root user. Okay, so installing Ansible now. Yes. Okay. Okay, that's complete. So let's confirm Ansible version. So Ansible is installed. Ansible 2.9.23. So that's it. Now let's integrate our Ansible with our Jenkins. And we get to our Jenkins dashboard, manage Jenkins. We go to system. Okay, we get to publish over SSH. Publish over SSH. Okay, looks like we don't have it here, and we would have to install it. Okay, save with this boy. Go back to manage Jenkins, plugins, available plugins, publish over SSH. There it is. So we install, publish over SSH. Okay. Okay, let's restart Jenkins again. Then we complete the integration of our Ansible with our Jenkins. Okay, we'll log in again. Integrate Ansible with our Jenkins. So we get into our Jenkins UI, go to manage Jenkins, go to system. Recall that we had already installed publish over SSH. So we scroll down to about the end, get to SSH servers, add. We want to add a server here. So let's call that Ansible server. The host name, let's get the IP address of our Ansible server right here. So we paste that in here. So the username is ANS admin. You can leave this blank, go to advanced, check on this, put in the password for the ANS admin. And once you do that, apply, and test configuration gives you sources, and you save. Next, we install Docker in our Ansible server so we can run Docker commands. So we create the directory. First of all, we'll cd into opt on our Ansible server with the user, and then create directory. We'll call the directory Docker. Of course, if you look at that, Docker is owned by the root, so we want to change the ownership of that directory to ANS admin. So we run the command to change that. So if you look again, you see that this directory is now owned by ANS admin. So, and to go further with it, we get into our Jenkins UI, so we can do a test build and also complete some integrations there. So right on our test one, we can get into test one, get to configure that. So in the configurations, we want to add a post build action. So we have all of these set up, remember from earlier. So we'll simply go in and add a post build action. And we want to choose send build artifacts over SSH. So once we select that, Ansible server comes up because we've already configured it just a moment ago. And so for the transfer set and the source files, we'll add this directory, this path, web app, target, and then wildcard.war. And we want to remove prefix. The prefix we want to remove at the end of it will be web app / target. So we'll remove this prefix, and the remote directory will be /opt /docker. Remember, we just created this directory now and in our Ansible server. So ignore this, and we continue, apply that, save that, and let's do another build. Build now. Build number 2 is ongoing. Okay, build is successful. Okay, so this is a build number 2 successful. So let's confirm that we go to our Ansible server and check in this directory whether we will find anything there. So let's see the date right now. Okay, so if we say ls/docker, ls docker, I'll see web app war. Okay, so that's just to prove that the configuration it's okay and the build has been transferred here at this time. All right, so look at the time and look at that time there. So building is success. The task is successful. So right now we continue to install and configure Docker on this Ansible server. Okay, so we are in OPT directory. So let's cd into the Docker directory now, so we can install Docker right in it. So continue with the commands. Okay, so Docker is installed now. So, however, okay, so we have Docker in here installed already. So we want to change the ownership. We want to add Docker. We want to add ANS admin. So if I ID ANS admin, ANS admin doesn't belong to the Docker group. So every user that must run Docker commands must belong to the Docker group. All right. And to do that, I have to add ANS admin into the Docker group and just get a command. So if I ID ANS admin now, I'll see Docker right here. So with this, ANS admin can actually run Docker now. Then we go ahead to start Docker service and check it out. So sudo systemctl start Docker. Go. So Docker is running now. So NSAdmin can run Docker commands now. Permission deny, trying to connect to socket. Okay, we're going to restart this. We're going to restart this server now, and everything will be good after that. So restarting Docker, restarting Ansible server. So after a moment, we just hit R and we'll reestablish the connection. Okay, back into it. So we want to start Docker now. Okay. Okay, Docker is active and running now. So Okay, so switch user to ANS admin to continue our tasks. All right, so cd into opt docker. Okay, we just got that now. So I want to create a Docker file, which I will use to build the application right in here. So I'll vi Docker file. Okay, so this is our simple Docker file for this application. All right, so we copy that into web apps. At the same time, I want to rename this into uh, register register.war. So I'll save and quit. Now I've established the connection between Docker and Ansible and Jenkins. So there is now communication between the two servers and the two tools. So we will go ahead with the demonstration. Okay, next is we create Ansible playbook to create Docker image and to copy the image to our Docker Hub. All right, so now, first of all, we need to reconfigure this something here. So if you run ifconfig, we will find a private IP address of our Ansible server. So we will need this private IP address because we are in the same VPC. All of these servers are in the same VPC. So we get into the file, we VI into etc ansible /etc ansible/hosts. Here we are. If you may want to remove all of these. We don't need it at the moment, so we will delete all of them so we can create a new. So we add the local host Ansible, and we copy the private IP address that we saw just a moment ago. So we're getting into that. So this is the Ansible server, and this is a private IP address, the same thing we saw a moment ago when we ran ifconfig. So we got that, and we paste that right in here. We're using the private IP again because we are in the same VPC. So we save and quit. Okay, so having done that, the next I need to do is I need to copy the public key that I have already created earlier. If you remember the step when we did SSH key gen, we created a public key. So I want to copy that right now into this same host. So I will use that key to be able to communicate with this host. So now I'll do SSH copy ID, SSH copy ID. Now I'm going to use private IP address. Yes. ANS admin password. So put in the password. The key has been added. So I can just log into this machine from here. So this is the beauty of Ansible. So once you're able to do this SSH copy ID to as many servers as you can control everything. That's the beauty. That's one of the importance of Ansible as a configuration management tool. So I can do this right now from here. Okay, so having done that, the next thing I will do is to create a manifest file for the creation of Docker image from our application. So I'm simply going to quickly create that. So if I still in the same folder, if I VI into, let's call that register, let me call that a register image, register CI, let me call that register CI.yaml. Okay, so copy the manifest into it. So this Ansible playbook will run on the host Ansible, which is our local host, and it will create Docker image with the command. It will tag the Docker image as this, and it's going to push the Docker image to my repository, So save and quit. Okay, now let's test that. Ansible playbook, register.ci.yaml, check. Okay, I think there's an error with that command there. So just check. Yeah. So that's the error there. So it's that check. Okay, now everything is okay. Everything is good. So the command will run once we run it now, but we're not going to run it right now. So log into Docker Hub, Docker login, password, done. So now we can run the playbook now, and I'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna run the playbook. That's Ansible playbook. Register.ci.yaml. Register.ci.yaml. Okay, so playbook is running. Good. So the playbook has run completely. Now we will update our Jenkins job to be able to run the Ansible playbook. And to be able to do that, we'll get back to our Jenkins. Let's create a new project and call that register CI job. It's a Maven project. It's a Maven project, and so right now the configuration from before. So this is our repository URL. Paste that in here. So it's a private repository, so credentials are required. So we have set it up already before. So remember to change that to main. And we won't change anything much at this point. We'll change the goal here to be clean install. And we'll add a post build action to send build artifacts over SSH. So we have this configured Ansible server. Source file will be web apps/target wildcard anything.war. Then we'll remove the prefix web apps/target. Remote directory is opt docker. If you remember from the first place we filled it in, so opt/docker. Now, because we want to run the Ansible playbook now from this point, so we run the command to put an exec command to run the Ansible playbook. Ansible playbook, we pass the absolute path to the file, the manifest that we just ran a moment ago, which is at opt-docker/register-ci.yaml. So that will run it. So you're going to ignore this, apply, and save, and build. So this completes our CI job, which begins from cloning from our Git repository, doing our Maven build, which involves the compilation, the building, and producing the artifact, and the artifacts copied to Ansible server. Ansible server executes the Ansible playbook to build the Docker image. And once the Docker image is built, the Docker image is tagged and pushed to the repository, which we would see in a little moment. So the CI job has been successful. So the next stage will be to start and complete the CD job and then put the two of them together. Okay, so successful this time. So the build is successful. So we'll check our repository right now. So we'll refresh that. And we have our image, application image pushed a few seconds ago. Next, we would start our EKS Bootstrap server. And remember, we've been using Terraform to start up our server. So right now, I just have two directories with installation script. So I'm going to create a third directory. I'm going to copy what's in Ansible and call that EKS server. We call that EKS server. Done. So I have EKS server right there. So I'll cd into EKS server, ls. Now remember, we would have hidden files, Terraform state files, Terraform state configurations right here. Not state files. State files are in the remote backend. So I'm going to have to delete these two. I'm going to have to delete the Terraform.log ACL. So delete the two. So I'm going to have just these files, and I'll quickly edit some things. So I'm still going to use the same data source for that. Let me look at what's in main.tf. Maybe need to edit something in there. I think we're good. Yes, we are good with main.tf. So provider block Yes, let's edit provider, and we're just going to edit just the portion for the back end key, and we'll put that as EKS server. That's where it's going to save our Terraform state file. So we get into security. I would want to change something here. Security.tf. So I want to allow all ports. I want to be able to allow all ports. So change this. Security group 3. I want to be able to allow all ports. So I'm not going to be using dynamic egress now. I'm simply going to use a simpler version of that to allow all ports. Okay. Okay, so simply going to allow all ports now. Egress 0, all ports, all protocol. So I don't need IPv6 header block, but you can leave it. Doesn't make any difference. So I got that in already. So ensure everything is in order. We'll call that my SG3. Okay, so that done. Save output variables. I might not need to change anything in variables. Variables.tl. I wouldn't need to change. So I'll still use my T2 macro. Same variables, same key, same ingress rules, but egress rules are changing now. Okay, so all right. I think I'm also going to change the ingress rules now. So we are not going to have any problem anywhere. However, you could have some security ports that you want to open, specifically. So I'm simply going to come here. We're going to come here. I'll put that, and then I'll edit it. Okay, so it's going to be ingress now. It's going to be ingress. I'm going to open all ports now in ways, but that's not so advisable, but you can do that. I don't need IPv6. So all ports, all protocol, and that does it. This is not so advisable. It's better you work with definite ports, so especially for the ingress into your server. So, but right now, I wouldn't want to spend more time in explaining that and putting in the definite ports I need to just get this demonstration done with. So that's saved. My variables are all saved. So I have my EKS server coming up already. And so I'll run my Terraform init, initializing in progress. Okay, initializing done. So Terraform FMT done. Terraform validate. All good. So Terraform plan. Okay, so Terraform apply with the auto approve flag. So our server is going to be up in a moment. Oh, I forgot to change the name from Ansible server to EKS server, but that's no problems. That's no problem. So I'm going to go to the AWS account. I'm going to go to the AWS account. It's going to be a little bit confusing because we have another Ansible server right here, but I will change that right here now. So 09 here. So this is the new server. It's not actually Ansible server. So I will rename it here, keeping it simple. So I can call that EKS server. Yep. Okay. So EKS server, I'll copy the public IP v4 address because I want to get into it now. It's your user. Okay. Our EKS server is up. We'll name that EKS. So right there in our EKS server. So let's change the host name. HC host name. So change that. So host name has been changed. So we'll reboot. Okay. So the next order is to install kubectl, and we'll refer to this for the installation of kubectl. So we want to install the latest version of Kubernetes. of kubectl. So for AMD64, so we just copy this. Okay, so switch to root. Okay, done. So go to next. You can verify the binary, no, the checksum for the binary. So, but that's optional. And now we change the permission, add executive permission to it. Of course, right here we have kubectl already in here. So if you check that, there's no exit permission here, so we want to add that. And that command does that. Okay, so that's done. So it now has executable permissions. Now we go to the next step, which will be to move it into the /bin directory, because all our executable files are supposed to be found in the /bin directory. So we're going to do that right now. So we move kubectl from here to /bin. So it's no longer going to be here, but it's going to be in if you ls/bin. Okay. Type it and grep for kubectl right there. So we already have it inside kubectl. Okay, so that's it for the version. So if you let's check the version, kubectl version, open a mail. So we have that kubectl version already. Okay, so that done. So the next task would be to install EKSCTL, which is the command line tool for EKS, and that is going to install that for us. Now, temp directory. Okay. All right, so cd into temp directory. All right, we're already in temp. So, and then we move that. We move the, if we ls temp, we'll find our EKSCTL, and we want to move it into our bin directory. Again, it's one of our executable directories. So we move it into bin. So this command will move that EKSCTL into /bin directory. So that's done. So if we run EKSCTL version, so we have EKSCTL installed already. So that's it. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to attach IAM role to this server, EKS Bootstrap server. So let's go right ahead and add the roles as necessary. So we go into our AWS console, security, modify IAM role. I want to create a new role for this. Just try to make it as easy as possible. Create a new role, and want to create role, AWS service, use case EC2, next. So we'll search out some roles. So for Amazon EC2, full access, Amazon EC2 full access, right there. We select that, done. The next policy we're going to attach is AWS CloudFormation. AWS CloudFormation full access. CloudFormation full access. So we attach the policy. The next we're going to attach is IAM full access. IAM full access. We attach that. And finally, we also attach the administrator access, to be able to run our task for us. So we have 4 policies already attached. So next, let's name this role EKS role with all of these permissions, policies attached. So we create role. Okay. Role name, let's call that EKS dash role. Yeah. So create role. So role has been created. So we get back into this. It's not going to be here. You refresh this, and you have EKS role right here. So we attach that. So once that is attached already, we go ahead to create a cluster with the EKS already installed. So let's run that. EKS create cluster. Again, since we're using our Terraform script, we could have also used Terraform to create EKS. All right, we could also go through this method, but we want to go through this method for the sake of the continuous deployment, which can also happen with creating EKS with Terraform. But there has to be a control server, which this would also serve as. We'll see how the connection is made. So that's also another option. So let's call this cluster register app cluster. Let's call that register app cluster. Okay. And we want that cluster to be in US East 2. Cluster to be US East 2. And we want the node type to be, oh, there's an error here already. Okay, let's repeat the command, EKSCTL, create cluster. Name should be register app cluster. All right, pass the flags. Region, US East 2. US East 2. Node type will be T2 micro. Okay, I can just use T2 small. Let me use T2 small, make it simple for everyone and anyone. Okay, so that's the command I need to pass. Now, this is going to take quite some time, so I'm going to pause the video and we will get back to it once the cluster has finished running or set up. Now that our cluster has been set up, the next thing is to install AWS CLI. So we refer to this AWS documentation to install AWS CLI. So we'll just copy that. Get to our terminal. Run that. So AWS CLI is installed already. One moment. Okay, so run AWS version. It's actually in US local bin. Okay, so now that AWS CLI has been installed, so we'll run the AWS EKS command. The region is US East 2, and the name of the cluster is register app dash cluster. So the kubectl, the kube command, kube config has already been updated right now. So if we run kubectl get nodes, yeah, we have our nodes ready. Kubectl get pods, no pods in the default namespace. So our cluster is up and running now. And so the first thing we need to do now is to create a deployment manifest file right in this server. And so let's create that. Let's call that register deployment.yaml. Register deployment.yaml, and so this is the manifest file. Ansible register app is a deployment from the Docker Hub. So next we create the service. Create the service. It's called register service.yaml. So put that in there. So that's their service for that. So now that we are done with that, the next thing we need to do is to integrate this Bootstrap server with Ansible. To be able to do that, we need to make some changes in this Bootstrap server. So we vi into etc sshd config, and we enable password authentication. We enable password authentication. Now we've done that, so let's assign password for the root user. So we're giving the root user password. It could be any user actually. So, but we assign password to the root user. to enable authentication from the Ansible server, and of course. Okay, so we reload service SSHD reload. Okay, that done. So let's get the private IP of this Bootstrap server. We have it right here. Again, if you're not sure of that, it's also in the AWS console. You could also get that from the AWS console. So let's get to Ansible server. Switch user as Ansible admin. Okay, switch user as Ansible admin, and we get to edit etc Ansible hosts file to include our Kubernetes Bootstrap server. So let's call that Kubernetes. Call that Kubernetes. Of course, we could use the private IP address since they are all in the same VPC. So get the private IP address of the EKS server. Now we have it. So we get back into the Ansible server and add that. Okay. Add it. Save and quit. Okay. So we have copied that, asking for root password. Okay, done. So now that is done, we're going to create an Ansible playbook right in here to be able to perform this deployment for us. So let's call that kube_deploy.yaml. Okay, so get that in here. So this is name of the file. We've created this file already in the Kubernetes EKS server. Created the file already. So this is to update the app anytime there's an image change, image update in Docker Hub. So we can run the Ansible playbook. So let's check. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's now run that. And let's have an idea what we gave. So it's all deployed. So the application has been deployed already. That's just to test the configurations. So to confirm that, we have the application running here. Okay, so that's the application running, and that's the load balancer, DNS name, so with which we can use to access the application. So create new item, register CD now. So that's deployment job. It's your freestyle project. Very important. Post build actions. Send build artifacts over SSH. So I wouldn't set anything at this point. So I'll simply set the exec command. So run the Ansible playbook. Of course, remember we have the playbook in our opt/docker, and the file name is cube_deploy.yaml. So that's all I'm going to do. I don't need to set up any other thing again. So apply and save. Okay, so having saved that, okay, if I do build now, it's going to make a deployment. Okay, so it just made a deployment. So node file was transferred. Okay, so right now we want to integrate the CI job with the CD job. So we go into the CI job, and there we can actually make some configurations, such as I still have the GitHub repository right there. The build trigger can put pull SEM to check every second, every minute, and so it's going to be every minute. So it's going to check every minute for if there's any update on the Git repository, and then it will trigger the build. Okay, so everything is as required. So post build action is the first post build action to copy our artifact to our Ansible server to be able to run the Docker image building and tagging and pushing. Okay, so after that, I'm going to add build after post build step, to build other projects, post build action to build other projects after this. Okay, so the project to build would be register cd job. So that's the project to build. So ignore this. So it's to build the register cd job, and trigger only if build is stable. Okay, I could have that done. So I apply that and I save that. So let's run a build on the register CI job. Build is ongoing. Okay, build has succeeded. So let's quickly get into our CD job. Okay, the build 2 has completed actually a moment ago. So successful. Okay, so that's the job. So at this time, let's test our build trigger. So this is my repository in my local environment for the same application. So let me just edit readme via into readme. Just job completed. Save and quit. So if I do git status, there's a change, modified readme. So we add that, git add, run git commit. Okay, so just made a commit and a push into the repository. So the CI job, CI job is going to be triggered because of the new push into the repository. Okay, job number 4. Job number 4 is ongoing now. Okay, job is successful. So it's triggering a new build in the register CD. Register CD job just started now. Register CD job just started and is completed already.
So let's take a look at the repository. The register app was just updated a few seconds ago, so the job has been successful. And if we look at the EKS server, we can kubectl get pods just 43 seconds ago, so that's running. So kubectl get SVC, so we have the load balancer here deployed. So let's try to access our application. So we'll try to access our application, port 8080. Okay, it gets us to that, and slash register. Yeah, so this is application up and running. So successful. So this is our application right here. Register for online DevOps training at Massive Voice System Solution. So application is well running, and I hope you enjoyed it. So please feel free to send a comment. If you have any question on the task, you may ask on the comment section. However, you may choose to go through this video one step after another, since there are many steps, from the beginning of the project with infrastructure provisioning, using Terraform infrastructure as a code tool, over to starting our respective servers, our Jenkins server, which also houses our Maven, and the configurations, different configurations that we did there. Again, then from there, we started other servers, Ansible server, the EKS Bootstrap server, and we used EKS CTL to provision our cluster that we just deployed the application in. And of course, every part of this task will require some level of expertise. So you take your time, go through it, go through different documentations, and bit by bit, you pick every little step. Just as I mentioned, it's we just try to keep it a little bit simple from the beginning to the end, as simple as possible. However, each of those concepts, there are a lot of other things that are also part of the tools and the technologies we just used: Jenkins, Kubernetes, Ansible, Terraform, Docker. So a lot of other things are within them, and you just take your time and move through it one step after another. So thank you very much.